What up?
Dude, that was a good one because I am amped to have you here. I told you I was going to be loud and I'm not.
Yeah,
I can
yeah.
do it, Eli.
I'm doing
Welcome to
good.
the
I'm
show,
doing
brother.
good. Thank you. Yeah, it's I'm not used to being on camera this early, so it's good to get me up and at 'em.
Bro, come on. It's 7 a.m. here. It's only 10 a.m. for you.
I know. Most of
I
my streams are
remember.
usually at night.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true. But wait till you have a kid, bro. If you ever have a kid,
Yeah, you don't get a
it
choice.
doesn't happen that way anymore. You
No,
waking up at 10 a.m., those days are over. I do remember college when I would sleep till 1 a.m. I mean 1
1
p.m.
p.m.
and stay up till like 6 a.m. That was fun times.
I
Don't do
I
that
will
anymore.
I won't I won't wake up that late. I'm very slow to get moving. So I'll
Hmm.
get started, I'll get on my laptop and I'll do stuff, but I won't get in front of a camera this early. So I'm not used to it because I usually like I love taking a long shower. I like
Oh,
doing all these things slowly and then a ramp up to
oh.
my day. So today I just like had to rush everything. But it also
Mm,
means okay, well now I get to go to the gym early. Now I get stuff done. It's
mhm.
better to start your day early.
Oh,
Uh
dude.
so maybe this helps me kick into gear.
It's the best, as we continue, like I said, to build this and flourish this relationship. I'll give you some life tips like that. I promise you this. The earlier you start your day, the better. And bro, please tell me that you're targeting 8 hours of sleep a night.
Oh no, no.
You have,
No, I get
dude.
like four. I get like 4 or 5.
I will tell you this. One of the biggest life hacks I have ever learned, 7 to 8 hours of sleep, bro. You got to make that a priority. Honestly, that and water.
Yeah. It's
That's it.
it's it's hard to make it a priority when you're in the bull run where you feel like this 6 month sprint you don't it happens once every 4 years. So it's like,
Yeah.
okay, well,
Yeah.
should I throw away some of my health to make generational wealth? I mean, it pays off if you make the generational wealth, but
Right.
but if you don't, then yeah, maybe it comes back to bite you.
Dude, I love this conversation already. We'll get into the question later, but here's my honest opinion about it, man. And I love your take. I think content creators and the Web3 people overestimate what a bull run can bring because they are so inundated with messages about generational wealth here. I'm gonna miss X here. When I also do know this with hundreds of founders coming on here and me experiencing it myself. This bull run is not. It might change a very very small percentage of people's lives, and you're gonna get it if you get an influx of cash overnight. It still doesn't change anything in the sense that you need purpose and you want to understand your vision going forward. So my point is, I don't think sacrificing your health because of a bull run makes sense, because if you're really going to be successful, it's going to take years to get there. Because I think you as a content creator, your business that you're actually building is the partnerships, the relationships, the actually the strategy and the businesses that you'll build off camera. That is your generational wealth and bull run. And
Yeah.
that is years in the making. What do you think about that take?
Well, I don't disagree with as far as from the content creator side. For me, it's more like the trading side.
Mm,
It's like crypto's a market that it's not like stocks where you can't there's a down period during the day where you can't
mhm,
trade it, right? Like
mhm.
overnight. Whereas crypto, it's 24/7. And sometimes some of the biggest coins that's ever launched that could have, changed people's lives, they launch at times that are pretty bad for the US.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and so sometimes I'm up late. Sometimes I get a little euphoric. Like I finished the stream, my stream yesterday, and it was really, really, really good. And then it just kind of kept me on a high, and then it was hard to stop because I just wanted to keep posting and whatever. And then it was like I look at the camera or look at my phone, it's like 2 a.m. And so, but it's because you ride that momentum, that euphoria of like, okay, people are here, people are bullish, everyone's
Right, right.
active, coins are pumping, and so you want to take advantage of that. But yeah, I mean, as far as like the content create and brand building side, it's definitely not a rush, but also it's not like, I don't feel like there needs to be a rush because everyone's here, right? Like you're already
Right.
positioned to do well.
Right.
And like trying to put out more content and speed things up necessarily isn't always great. But the trading side is where I'm kind of like, okay,
That
well,
makes sense. That
yeah,
makes sense. And I will say this, man. I've actually had to learn this on my side, which is your point is, if you want to be uber successful, you're going to have to make those sacrifices for a finite period of time, but it
right,
cannot
yeah.
go on forever.
No, definitely
Right.
not. No.
And so I get it. I get it. But I'm not, meme coins and all this trading stuff. I could care less. I
Yeah.
suck at it. Dude, I've made a lot of money over the last 4 years. I pretty much lost it all.
Yeah.
I
Fast money comes, fast money goes.
bro, I had hundreds of different things. I won't say, but like it was some money.
Yeah.
And I just didn't know what I was doing, man. I suck at trading. But great little detour, because I think that's a good conversation. We'll probably get back to it in the future of the conversation in the podcast. Real quick updates about myself. I am going to Maui with family next week, so I will not be around. I'm going to schedule all my content out, but I definitely, who was I talking to? I was talking to a founder, and I was like, I don't know, man. Maybe I'll just throw my phone in the ocean when I get there, because I think it really is a point in time that I just need to do it. And this is the other thing I struggle with is really trying not to be on X, because again, I'm not doing the trading thing, and I find myself way more productive if I only look at my phone 2 to 3 times a day. Because a lot of times when you're just on it 24/7, you end up in the wrong places anyways. It's just like, what am I trying to do to benefit myself? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But I have Think Agents just dropped their TGE. Love those guys. They're in an amazing AI agent builder club. We just had Starlordy on, working with him, his Ava AI agent. Really big push this month to get some visibility around him. We got a bunch of stuff going on with the plague. I'm excited about that. And as far as the guest, I don't like to reveal the names quite yet, because sometimes things change, but I've got guest lines up for the next 2 months. Really, really excited about that.
Wow.
But enough about me. We're going straight into Eli. The rest is about you, my man. And we start off with just like, a very nice formal introduction. And you went to school for communications. That's kind of where it all started. I love this, but we'll talk about the Rat King. Probably most people know about that. I don't know. Do a lot of people know about this Rat King situation?
Not really. I mean, not now anymore. Right.
Okay.
Now we've lost so many people from the 2021 bull run.
Oh, so many.
That I think this new influx for sure have no clue, because now at this point it's been almost 3 years since
that's
changed
true.
Changed personas, and that's like, it's like a century in crypto Twitter. So yeah, I don't think a lot of people remember that. I have been telling the story obviously like a good amount of times in the last month or so as people get to know me more, but there's some OGs, some people who are still around that remember it.
I was not in that. I was inundated with the Happy stuff because I was a mod there, and that was kind of like my claim to fame, as people found who Mikey G was. Don't remember the Rat King thing, so we'll talk about that. But yes, that was in 21, 22.
Yeah.
Same thing here. I've been actually streaming since 2020, so I've went through all this craziness. Topped the charts with music NFTs in 23, which is really, really cool. But this is my favorite part of the intro. Eli, you got something that you want to share with the fam that maybe they don't know. Did you have that little tip on your head? What would that be?
Yeah, I mean, well, I was, I mean, it's two-parted. One of them is more believable. But in college, and a little bit before college, but I'd say around 2016, 2020, in that span of time, I was a model and I used to do like runway stuff for hair modeling shows also,
That's
and I did a
amazing.
lot of fitness. I used to be like a fitness influencer, and I was with bodybuilding.com, which at the time was the number one, the largest like website for bodybuilding, for supplements, where you'd buy it. This is before Amazon got really massive with supplements, and
Right.
so that was my kind of big thing before I started doing music.
Wait a sec. Is bodybuilding.com the misc? Is that the one that had the miscellaneous forum that was just
I, I,
batshit crazy?
I think so. Yeah, that was
Yes,
yeah.
it
So
was.
before they got really big leaning into that was before I got on, because that
Right.
was their kind of claim to fame. It was like the Reddit of bodybuilding,
Yes,
and then it
dude.
kind of transitioned into being like the where the lifting guides, the interviews, where you'd
Mm-hmm.
buy supplements and
Mm-hmm.
all that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's the same place.
Dude, they were such a that like you want to talk about degenerate, the misc they called it the misc, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
if you had a cool comment, you would get repped. And my my buddies got so far down this like striving to get repped on the misc, but the funniest shit I have ever seen in my
really.
life, because it was degenerate, but like it wasn't like 4chan like on, you know, just getting gross and offensive. Like these guys were just freaking hilarious.
Yeah, yeah,
But that's awesome. So thanks for sharing that, man.
yeah. Of course.
Quick little intro, and now here's the meat of it. I told you before we started, dude, I love what I do, and I love these conversations. It's critically important, I think, for people to understand who you are as a human being. And for us to get there, ask one question. And I'm going to reiterate this for the audience because this will be up on Spotify too as a legit podcast. And there's people watching right now that do not know this format. So, Eli, how did you get the seat you're sitting in today, man? Please give me chapter 1, 2, and 3. To reiterate for the audience that does not know this format, chapter 1, bro, is your childhood. Again, the prompting questions that I was talking about, vivid memories, parents, parental figures, or their mantras: be kind, pay it forward, work hard, whatever that may be. Were you a tinker or did you play sports? We'll go from there. Chapter 2 is schooling, like we talked about a little bit, and then really your professional career. Here, though, remember, I want your failures, man, because the failures really give us the insights on how to grow, and that is super educational and helpful for the audience that's listening. And then, of course, chapter 3 is Web3. That's going to be educational as well, because I know people look at your show and what you're doing now, and they're like, man, I wish I could do what Eli does. And I think it's very nice to just peel back the layers of the onion to understand your journey. So start in chapter 1, childhood, man, wherever you want to start, and we'll go from there, brother. Cannot wait to hear it.
Okay, so just to make sure, chapter 1, childhood. Chapter
Mm-hmm.
2
Mm-hmm. Chapter
is
2 is your schooling, professional kind of career, and then
right,
chapter
and
3
chapter
is
3 is
Web3. But
Web3.
don't get overwhelmed about the chapters, because this will be very natural, and we'll
Yeah.
just transition into that. I'll take a break before each chapter, and just reset, get people to retweet. By the way, this is a perfect time. We already almost have 100 people watching on the stream, so retweet this SOB and comment, because people need to understand who Eli is. This is the fundamental part of Web3. So do it right now, and let's get into chapter 1. Don't worry about the rest, man. We'll get there organically.
Yeah, so growing up, so I was born in the US. You know, dad's an immigrant. Grew up, moved around a lot, mostly on the East Coast, and eventually early childhood settled in Florida. Raised around Florida, just bounced around in parts in Florida for a while as well, up until I'd say middle elementary, late elementary school. And then we kind of stuck around. But yeah, I used to play every sport growing up. The only sport I didn't play was American football. I didn't play a ton of soccer, but everything else I did in Florida. You know, hockey is not like super massive now; it's like
Right.
getting bigger. But I would play roller hockey. I did basketball. I did skateboarding. I did you name it. I just used to really love it. I would get very competitive: taekwondo, karate. almost got a black belt. And so that was kind of me growing up. I eventually, you know, like my childhood wasn't like too crazy, you know, general stuff. But then around middle school, I found skateboarding, and I started kind of falling into, and when I say falling, I don't mean a bad way, but I started falling into like, you know, a skateboarding group and started making friends through that. And that kind of became my life. I would skate maybe like 8 hours a day, every day. We'd go to skate parks, free parks, skate around South Florida before, you know, we didn't have cars. We were in middle school. The world was so much bigger back then when you're traveling by skateboard, not by car. But it was, you know, it was a really big thing for me. I got sponsored. I got to high school. I started doing amateur skateboarding a little bit.
Sponsored by who? Vans.
No, nothing super massive. Mostly like amateur stuff. So there was a shop called Maui Nicks that would sponsor me.
Nice.
They were kind of like Ron John Surf Shop.
How does that work when you're getting sponsored? You're just getting free swag?
Yeah, just free. Yeah, they didn't pay me because I was also like very young, and I don't think it made sense for them. But they would give me, you know, skateboards. They'd give me clothes. They'd give me whatever. Which was fine for me back then because that's what I was spending money on anyways.
Yeah.
Then you know, in high school, I started getting my first job. I was doing volunteer work too. I think I graduated high school with like the most service hours for volunteer work at that point, just from helping church stuff and even like synagogue stuff. Like I was all over the place, but I was always doing stuff to volunteer.
So we can cut in right here. You already gave me enough, like I said, to talk for 40 hours. So a couple of things that came to mind already. And this is an interesting one to me. There's a lot of, I would say that creative artist people, even entrepreneurs, got sucked into that skate world. And so reflecting, remember, this is all reflective, right? This is an opportunity for you to reflect, take a break too as well. Why skating? Like what attracted you? And looking back, I think there was probably some camaraderie there, but when people talk about this, a lot of times it's a creative outlet too. And I don't understand where that comes from. And I'm interested in like your experience and how that impacted you.
Yeah. So I'd say if you look back 10 years, skateboarding was not as niche as it is right now, right? Skateboarding was pop culture. All the Tony Hawk games, skate games, Ryan Sheckler's show, like skateboarding was actually the cultural, you know, cornerstone of what was popping, right? Like Rob Dyrdek, Fantasy Factory, all this kind of stuff, right? Nitro Circus, Jackass, that skate culture was the epicenter. So it wasn't like that odd. I think a lot of people were skateboarding back then, and so that's kind of how I fell into it, just because it was. It was just there. It was the thing that's popular. We had a massive skateboard park near my house. Fell into it, and I didn't really, like, even though I had played recreational, like very low level in like middle school or elementary, like when it comes to the other sports, you know, your parents sign you up, send you all these sports, but it's not like I was actually like an athlete back then. It's not that I was competitive back then.
Right.
And so skateboarding was just kind of the first thing that I fell into. And again, I think that's mostly just because it was the cool thing. All the cool kids you looked up to were skateboarding. All the TV shows, the music was so skateboard centered. So looking back on it, it was just kind of a normal move. And a lot of people who didn't skateboard, the main reason they didn't was because it's a dangerous sport. You know, like a lot of kids don't want to get hurt. They don't want to have to learn how to try to do something through failure of eating shit all the time. And so they stick to other sports that are less demanding in that sense, or less risk tolerance.
See, this is interesting though, because there's a generational leap and gap for me, because when I grew up, skateboarding was like this counterculture against the grain. Like if you were a skateboarder, you were already in a kind of group of people that you like to smoke weed. You're kind of a little degenerate. But there was there's creative thing about it, especially videography, right? Like film really popped from this culture. So it's interesting to me that at that point, it was kind of a lot more normalized. You said something very, very interesting though after that, is you were all over the place. You did everything, man. You went through a list of everything. Where do you think that comes from?
So I actually was talking to a founder the other day about it, and he said, Eli, like you're actually very, I think what makes you connect with all the people is that you're really good at a bunch of things, and you do a bunch of things, music, gaming, sports, you're part of it all. And I said it to him, it's funny because growing up, what you're saying is what I used to get teased about a lot and made fun of, just being the jack of all trades and the master of none. And I was doing, like you said, I was doing all these different things, but I wasn't the greatest at any of them. And I was chasing a shiny object a bit too. And I think part of that comes from, I'm not going to self-diagnose myself with like ADD or ADHD, but I think part of me also is obsessed with the feeling of progression. It's really fun when you find something new that you start to get better at. And obviously then there's a point in all those things and anything in life where those noob gains, after those like very easy noob gains, then you hit a plateau, and then you're like, okay, well, is this for me? Like, how great can I get? Do I want to try other stuff instead? Most of the time I was actually doing all of them simultaneously, but I think a lot of it came from being competitive. I loved the feeling of progression. I loved learning. I really do like learning a lot. And so not in the school setting, but through trial and error of stuff in life. And I think, part of it also, it comes from insecurity. I think at a certain point, that plateau that you hit, you start thinking, okay, well, like, I'm not great at this. I'm not breaking this. I'm not becoming amazing. Is there any point in trying this if I'm not going to be the best? Like, there's other people who are better. Look at them. Like, I can't really catch up to them. So then you get discouraged, and maybe something else comes into, it's not like you go searching for it necessarily, but then something comes in your life. You're like, okay, this is cool. Like skateboarding was, I don't want to say it was kind of like that, because it got to a certain point where I could tell I'm not going pro. I don't have the balls to do these crazy things. I don't, I was getting hurt really often, like concussed, and I was like, okay, well, this is like whatever. And then, someone in my life, a mentor, and he came into my life, and he was actually, he played overseas basketball, all this kind of stuff. And he's kind of what got me into playing basketball. And then I got really, really into basketball pretty late, like 18 years old is when I really first started playing basketball. And so the chances of, I created this whole dream of, I'm going to go to the NBA. I trained really hard. I went to camps. I went to a bunch of these things, and I got pretty good. But there's also, then I went to some training sessions with like colleges, D1s for scouting. And I was doing okay. Like I was good enough for a JUCO level, but it wasn't, it wasn't working, right? It wasn't going anywhere. So then I was kind of like, fuck, okay, well, I still have basketball, but then acting popped up at college, community college. Cause I had, it goes back to, I'm a jack of all trades. I never knew what I wanted to do in college, and no matter what, I had no idea. And so by the time I was getting ready to graduate with my associates from community college after 2 years, I actually had 0 electives. I had 0 elective credits done. I had only just done every math, everything. And they were like, hey, well, like, what do you want to do? You should probably do like an area that you're interested in. And I'm like, I don't know what I want to do. I have no clue. So they said, okay, well, there's some acting classes if you want. They're pretty easy. Just knock them out. I was like, okay. Then I found acting, and I got really, really into it. I ended up landing the lead role in the university play. And that was really awesome. And then I was like, okay, this is fun. Like maybe I can start trying to do this. And then I fell into acting, which brought me into modeling. And so that's, I would say insecurity is part of it when you realize, okay, there's a plateau and you don't feel like you're good enough to push it. And I don't think that's always a bad thing. I do think it's good to be a dreamer, but I think also, you have to step back and realize, okay, well, do I want to bat my head against the wall for years and years and years and years? Or should I take a step back and maybe I'm passionate about other things that are worth looking at and pursuing? And then also, again, like, it's just the feeling of progression is really fun. So when you find new things, like that initial learning stages and seeing yourself get better and better and better is kind of addicting.
Dude, thank you for taking me through that journey. I think something that you said that's really important, and this is interesting because when I look back, there, like you said, I think probably at a lot of these times, you didn't have a reason why. Like you're like there's something inherently about you knowing that you like progressing. You just want to try all these things, right? But the beautiful output of that was learning.
Mm.
And it is so critical to being an entrepreneurial mindset like yourself, like myself, and understanding. And even at the time, obviously, you're not interpreting this, but talk to me about that fundamental learning. But then also, I think what was happening subconsciously to you at the time was you were trying to find that passion. You might have manifested it in competition and leveling up, which was fun to you, but also maybe subconsciously you're like, what is that thing that I'm good at, but I also just love? Does that make sense, or am I off there?
Mm. Can you reword it?
So subconsciously,
Yeah.
I think maybe another thing that was happening, I could be wrong, is that you're trying all of these different things because you're ultimately trying to find passion and find something that you love, but that you're also good at. Because if you do level that concept up, now that you've grown a little bit, and I hear this from founders time and time again, I ultimately don't think true success, because success is not just money, right? Success is building something meaningful with purpose in my mind. I don't really think you can do that without passion, but then being very talented at that thing.
So I'll say I actually don't think it was necessarily finding passion. I think the issue was the ability to not lose, because again, everything I did,
right,
as I mentioned, was I would get discouraged and I wouldn't stay the course.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, it was more so like I look back and I'm like, okay, well, if I stuck with music, I would have been very passionate about that. If I stuck with acting, I would have been very passionate about that still. Like I still like those things a lot, and I would love to pursue that stuff to some degree if it's ever there. I think for me it was, and this is where I'm trying to be different in this arc of my life, is just being consistent even when it doesn't seem like I'm going to be the best or I'm going to be great, right? And so, with music, I didn't give it my all. Like I was very good at it. Again, like, my top song I think is 500K streams on Spotify, so it's not bad. But like I didn't even, when I look back, I wasn't creating content for music. I wasn't doing anything. I was just putting it out on Spotify, and that was basically it, and pushing on like my IG. But like I didn't learn anything about content creation or anything. But I got discouraged very easily. I felt like, okay, well, I'm not going to be the best. Like this is impossible, whatever. Like I'm hitting a plateau. Same thing with acting and modeling. Like modeling, I was doing pretty good, but I would constantly get told like, hey, you look, and this is like maybe a nice way of putting me down, but they'd be like, you look more like an actor than a model. And I was like, okay, well, I don't know what that means, but
what
sure.
does that mean?
I mean, there are some model-esque features that I don't have. Maybe I've grown into them now since I'm older, but I was losing most of the jobs to, kids or guys that have this Leonardo DiCaprio look, this boyish, perfect nose, perfect big lip, like whatever, like, just this look about them. And acting, I guess you can still be extremely attractive in a more conventional way, right? Like you don't have to look and stand out, like, because a lot of models also, it's not even that they're necessarily attractive, but they have features that stand out really well. And so anyways, so I got very discouraged with modeling, and I was like, okay, well, fuck this. And then acting, I got very discouraged, but I look back on all those things and I didn't stay the course,
dude.
and I didn't stay the course.
Yes. And so here's actually what I think is interesting too is, but this is I don't have an answer for this, and I would love that your answer, and you're in the thick of this too, so you might not have an answer. But the best answer I've come to is do something for 5 years. I think a long time is 5 years minimum, more like a decade, right? And so the question and what we're getting at here is, I actually think this is very important too, is how do you get through, and this actually goes back to the passion thing. how do you get through the dark times or the times where you feel like you're not good enough? I think passion is the only thing that I've found out to get me through that.
Yeah.
And so in your mind, and this is the hardest part, I think, about entrepreneurship and being a creator is, when do you know, like, to quit, right? Because you've actually found the insight that maybe I quit too early.
Yeah.
But now take
sure.
the long game, and let's say you're doing it for multiple years. I don't know the answer of like, okay, when do I move on? Because I've talked to myself multiple times of like, hey man, and it always seems like right when you do decide to quit, you might be like a day away from just blowing up. What are your thoughts about this concept on trying to struggle with this and try to understand when enough's enough?
Well, I think part of it was comparison for me. And comparison in the sense of, you know, I kept feeling like I was getting too old and I didn't have time to keep dreaming with no financial progress or anything like that. And I was thinking of this at 18 years old, and I look back at that and I regret it. But I would be told, like, you know, from friends' parents, you're too old to start trying to do music. Like, what are you doing? You know? And then I would look at it and I'd be like, fuck, dude, I am getting old. And then I was 21 and I'd look at artists that are popping up and popping off, and they were, you know, they were 16, 17. And I was like, damn, I'm, and this is at like 21, 22. And so I think I was just feeling this sense of, fuck, like I'm getting old. Like I don't have time to waste on something that's not clicking right away. It is very, not entitlement, but it was, I just didn't feel like I had time to stick to 5 years of not making it until I make it. And, you know, you look back at that and you're like, damn, okay, well, that just wasn't true. It can take one day and you pop off and your life gets changed, because success, what is it? It's success is preparation meets luck, right? Where it's like
something like that.
Like you're preparing, you're working, you're building yourself up, and then when luck comes by and that moment comes, you're ready for it. And then you know, it reminds me of like featured artists. Like Drake is known for working with artists that nobody knows about and puts them on, but a lot of them fall off within, you know, the same year because they didn't have a catalog of music, they didn't have a brand built, and so yeah, they pop off, but then people go listen to music, nothing's there, they have nothing, and so they weren't prepared. The luck came, but they weren't prepared. And so for me, I look back on it and it was mostly just like I felt like my time was running out and I didn't have time to spend dreaming and you know, even with music in Web3, it was a similar thing, but I look back and I'm like, okay, well, this was a good decision. You know, I tried doing music in Web3. I did really well, not monetarily necessarily. Like some of them made me some money, but there was no speculation for music in Web3, right? There was no secondary market that influencers were shilling. The only ones that were doing well were from like Snoop Dogg and top mega artists already. And then a few like LA music cabal people who are running the whole music NFT thing. But so I realized, like, dude, I'm not making music. I'm the class clown basically in Web3 for continuing to do this. At what point do I sit back and realize, okay, well, I'm growing up. I need money to pay bills.
Right.
I'm spending a lot of time doing this. I'm not getting the output I need. If I stuck to it, I mean, Web3 music is still not here, right? It's so like, I'm glad I didn't. I look at it and I'm like, sometimes you just have to realize that even if you're passionate about it, at least for me, and I'm not saying people shouldn't be dreamers and pursue their things until it clicks, because it can, right? It can. In music outside of Web3, if I'd never stopped going super hard, yeah, maybe I'd be on stage somewhere. Maybe I'd be, you know, selling out some shows, or maybe I'd be making a living through that.
Right.
But I just don't think I had enough confidence in it, realistically. 100%. Enough confidence to push through those down times.
It's a beautiful conversation, and it's like I told you, I don't have an answer. I will say this, what you said, and this is my next question for you, is there are two camps, and it is, you can take calculated risk, like myself, right? I still have a full-time job, but I specifically found a 100% work remote job so I can see my son grow up. I still make a solid living, but I also have time to do my side hustles, right? And in like even more made more decisions of like I'm in a generational home. I have 100% daycare taking care of me, which
nice.
offers me even more flexibility. So flexibility, I've made these calculated decisions to allow me to level up and have this time to play. So if it does fail, it's not the end of the world for me. But then there's another camp of people that are like, dude, if you don't cut the cord and go 100% in, it's never going to happen. What are your thoughts around this topic?
I mean, I'm in the latter camp for sure, right? But it was the same thing with trading that we said. I feel like this is a period of time where, at least in my opinion, when the bull run happens, it's really hard to fade going all in. I forgot what the saying was. It's a trading saying, but it's, 80% of the time is not work. Like you're only making money in trading, like real money in trading 20% of the time, right? And it's that moment in the market where it finally heats up, but it's not long lived, right? You can have a slow grind up, sure, but the really parabolic, crazy moments that you want to capitalize on are very rare and far and few. So for me, I'm all in. Like I've cut almost everything off. Again, but I'm like very obsessed and passionate sometimes, which is also not great because it makes me emotional very easily. And so I think when I became interested in doing content in March and I chose to do abstract, I decided I'm only going to be able to make this, and I'm only going to be able to become as big as I want or as great as I want to be if I dedicate everything I have to this. Because if I'm half in, half out, and I'm not saying half in, half out, but if I have other things to distract me, there's a high chance that I don't have a finger on the pulse. I don't have an ear to the ground. And in Web3, to me, if you want to be the person in the space, you want to be the guy, you kind of need to know what's going on. At least in my opinion, because I don't want to miss out on trends to talk about. I don't want to miss out on content ideas to make because things are passing by and I'm not aware of them. And then also again with trading, like this is the moment in time where you can throw money into something and it goes parabolic.
Yep.
And if you're slowed down, if you're not paying attention, those things pass really fast. Is it healthy? Yep. Probably not. No. Am I willing to sacrifice that a little bit for this 6-month sprint? Yeah. If there's a possibility where I can set myself up financially for freedom for the next 20 years or 10 to 20 years within 6 months, I'll take it.
Yeah. So, and I actually, I agree with you, right? I have had, so there's consequences to every decision and you have to be comfortable with your decision. And I've come to grips with one, there's a couple things that are, I don't know, against me, but make it different. One, I'm in my 40s, man.
Yeah.
I don't get the internet culture, nor do I care.
Yeah.
Right. I don't want to be perpetually online. It actually makes me feel worse.
Yeah.
Right. And then I also have had to come to grips with, I'm just not going to grow as fast. But I've also come to the realization that at the end of the day, at this moment in life, for me to see my son grow up every day, I know the day that I die, I'm not going to be like, damn, I wish I would have degened more for that 6-month generational wealth. Whereas you're in a totally different situation. I think the point of this conversation, though, for people to hear is the one thing I think you have to do is understand who you are as a human being. And when you just make decisions, you cannot make them because everyone else is telling you to do this and you think this is what you should do. You really, really need to dig deep down inside and understand who you are as a human being and why you're doing what you're doing. Do you agree with that sentiment? I see the head shaking.
Yeah. No, I do. Again, like I would agree. I think this space is the worst thing you could ever do mentally to yourself by being in crypto, like in Web3. And if you're in normal crypto, like YouTube crypto, if you're a casual person who's just buying crypto, that's great. The being hardcore into Web3 is probably the worst thing ever for my mental and my emotional space. It's just a terrible place. It is. It's the most greed-driven place I've ever been in. The worst people. Like there's good people, great people, but it is heavily consumed by some of the worst people I've ever met, engaged with in my entire life, and it's not 100%. Good. Whenever I'm offline, whenever I would go to the gym or play basketball or watch anime or like do anything other than this, I forget about it, and it's way better. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, dude, if I had a kid, if I had a family, maybe I would still do it. I don't know, but
there's a lot of people that still do it.
Yeah, it wouldn't make me happier. That's for sure. It definitely wouldn't make me happier. And so if you're already like in a place financially where you don't need to make it, and like, you have a home, you have stable income, and you're content with your life, and not in a bad way, but like you feel like actual joy of your position in life, well, then you're not starving to try to make or break it with trades and be on the internet 24/7, right? Like the slow and steady race is fulfilling enough for most people. For me, I feel like I don't have that steady thing yet. And, I think it's going to get there soon, hopefully. But because I don't have that, those trades seem pretty enticing to me, and wanting to be super crazy and active. I feel like I missed part of the question, but
no. It was more just you understanding yourself and why you're doing what you're doing. Yeah. That's all. And I think that's right. I think this is a great way to kind of like segue. I do have one more question because you said something interesting way earlier on. But we're moving into chapter 2. We almost have 200 people watching. Comment, retweet, do all of the things because you need to hear the story. We've already talked about amazing things, which is a lot about self-identity, trying to find different things. When do you know that you found something? And we don't even have answers, but these are the things that you have to start realizing yourself and think deeply. This other interesting thing that you said though too is, do you think degen crypto culture ever changes? It's just so financially driven, and it's weird because you have these cohorts of people that wanted to change like myself. But at some point, I think the only thing that I have seen so far that will make this change, I actually think crypto Twitter goes away eventually because Web2 corporations come in and they just aren't going to give a shit about KOLs that are in this crypto culture. Maybe I'm wrong. What are your thoughts about this? Does this ever change?
I don't think so, to be honest.
Interesting.
Maybe in like 10 years. Because it's like there's still stock trading Twitter that's just like this still, and stocks have been retail for decades now, right? I think it's just we are the lower end of the funnel, right? There's people on retail's already in crypto. There's already crypto retail. And there's already Twitter for crypto retail people, and there's already like, again, I mentioned before, but YouTube is where most of those people live. They are the top or higher end of the funnel, the people who work during the day and then learn about crypto after they work, or maybe in the morning, or they watch some, whatever, they watch an interview with Michael Saylor and they're like, I love crypto, and like, this is my daily bread, and so I think we're already there. I think we're already in a position like that. Will the space mature? Sure, to a degree, but then you also have new entrants all the time who are emotional and who are incapable in many ways, and so that leads them to still be susceptible to influencers and stuff. The kid, like, again, BitBoy was a KOL, but that was on YouTube, to a totally different audience, right? And we still had, but like, so I think like that stays. I think it sticks around. The only thing that would massively make a difference is insane legal changes that make almost everything we're doing here on crypto Twitter illegal,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Like
Do you think that
not
happens?
not under Trump, no, for sure not. Definitely not.
Eventually.
Uh
Because what we're doing here is Ponzi schemes and insider trading.
well, not even just that, but also like I was thinking about sponsorships that aren't like paid partnerships and paid deals that aren't, what's the word, disclosed, right? Undisclosed deals and
Oh
stuff like
yeah.
that,
Oh
where it's
yeah.
on crypto Twitter. I remember in 2021 when I first got into crypto on Twitter, like, bro, it was such a massive deal. People go into outrage when something wasn't disclosed. Like, it was really crazy looking back on it, because I've never seen that in years now. But now everyone's taking like deals and they're not disclosing it. Yeah, again, like people are pumping and dumping and stuff like that. And so I don't think any of that stuff changes. I think maturity can happen in this space a little bit, but it really only changes with regulation. I don't think that happens in the near future. And I wonder, you know, it mostly depends on how everything gets left off when
Right.
the Trump administration ends.
Yep.
If we
Yep.
continue with that political party and they lean in that same direction, or if we go Democrats, but maybe they're just like, fuck, like that's a lot of work, we don't want to have to deal with that.
We're just
You
gonna
know?
leave it as it
Yeah,
is.
yeah. So I don't know, but I think it really comes down to regulation that would change people's behavior.
Dude, this is a fascinating topic too, though, because what Web3 has done is democratize the access to these types of things. Because the traditional stock trading Wall Street area, this shit still happens. It's just very wealthy people that have access to it.
Somewhat, but I mean, also penny stocks still exist, right? And so when I first got into trading in crypto, same time as most people was during COVID, and I was getting a stimmy check and I was trying to spend it on trading, trying to make money because I wasn't working. And there was the first time I made a Discord was to enter this trading group called Atlas Trading. And it was a guy named Zach Morris, not Saved by the Bell, but that was the character he used for his PFP. And he actually came into crypto eventually later too. But they were pumping and dumping penny stocks, and it was just like what we're doing now. Like, KOLs pushing stocks so they could move super easily, and then dumping, and same thing with the option calls, and then just nuking them. And so even in stocks, it's still a thing. But they did get arrested, right? Like they did get caught for that.
100%.
And it was like a really big deal. I think apparently he got off or something. I don't know what happened, but who knows? But like stuff like that would push people away from, it wouldn't be as common here, because when you actually have to fear the law, it definitely shifts some behavior.
So how do you find your tribe in this? Because it's very difficult to understand what's real and what's not.
Drive-in content creating, drive-in Web3, like making money.
Web3 in a whole, right?
I mean, it's the truth that the opportunities you have here are, again, financially, are unlike anywhere else I've been and before. And I find it kind of laughable when people say, oh, well, I'm not here for the money. It's like, well, no, you are. You just found a niche here that you enjoy, that you'd rather make money through doing it, whether it's content creation, whether it's AI, whether it's character IP and brand growth, right? It's like everyone's here for money. It's just, well, what do you end up finding passion in this space to make that money, right? Maybe it's being a founder, maybe it's wanting to make technology that makes you money, but that changes the world. Mm-hmm. Maybe there's a 0.001% that is literally not here for any financial gain. But I've never met anyone like that, no matter what they say. So for me, my drive changed my life financially, obviously. And then, I love relationships. Again, that's why I went to school for communications. I like talking. I like networking. I like, I like building relationships. And so for me, I've always kind of, no matter what I've done, and I've mentioned this before, but I've tried all these different things, whether it was Web3 gaming, whether it was the Rat King, which was a persona that I made within Web3 gaming that I built a community around, whether it was music. Like during all this 3.5 year sprint, I guess marathon in crypto, even though I failed at a bunch of things, the one thing that remained was me building relationships throughout that whole time. And it wasn't like I was building relationships for something transactional, because I had nothing to give. And I was doing so many different things that I didn't even know what I could get. Right. And a lot of people I met, like for instance, Finn, who's now the lead marketing of Abstract, we met 3 years ago. We just became friends through trading, and that was it. Like he had no value to give me. I didn't really have any value to give him, but we just built a relationship. You never know where there can lead. And so that's where I feel like I've become successful, because I've just been like a friend, and I've just been a normal dude and building relationships, where then, okay, well now something's clicking and I have all these relationships that can be a foundation for things,
Yeah.
So my drive really has been community, I think, because during COVID, you lost all of that.
Yeah.
The reason why I fell into crypto and NFTs more than stocks, and I faded away from stocks during COVID, was because of the sense of, these communities that were built around NFTs, and the disc, like it just felt fun. It felt like it was filling that gap that I had during that time. So that's what drove me. And now what drives me is progression. Doing content creation and streaming and posting videos and tweeting, you're still getting that, right? You're getting that feedback. You're getting that source of, I don't want to say validation, but I'd say, you have people that you're able to connect with, talk to. Your content is hitting people well. They're impacted by it. They provide feedback, and you just feel like you're in a community now. So I feel like for me, it's been filling that with a direct source.
Right. Dude, beautiful conversation. I really, really do love all the insights, because this is usually a different take. This is a different take than most of the founders that I have on, because you're definitely more in the culture. You're more in the degen side of things. So I love the takes. Here's what I want to do. We're really into chapter 2. Let's reset. Everybody retweet, comment, do all those things. This is what I also like to say. For people that listen to this as evergreen content, comment on Spotify, comment on Apple. I interact with those as well too. So this isn't just a real-time thing. What I'm interested here, because I want to get to your Web3 journey, just 2 to 3 failures of like, well, you can give us the real TLDR. Dude, this is how much of a boomer I am. I have to like say it out loud to get the acronym right. TLDR of kind of your more kind of working. What did you do before you found Web3? What are some skills or things that you picked up? But then after that, 2 to 3 failures that gave you some real insights as you're progressing and growing.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'd say first thing, I mean, it was middle school. I was at an arcade that was nearby, and I had a lot of fun. I didn't want to ever leave. I was always there constantly. And eventually I was like, hey, can I do stuff for you for tokens? Because like my mom, I didn't have enough for the tokens. And they're like, yeah, sure. So I ended up working there to get paid in tokens in middle school, which looking back on it was kind of crazy. I would do everything for them. Then after that, I got really into volunteer work. So I started doing a lot of volunteer work with a synagogue that was nearby. I would do like aftercare. I'd be like a counselor aftercare. And that was really fun. Again, and that's when I kind of noticed I really enjoyed the role of like mentoree and mentor, whether it was on both sides for me. It was just enjoyable. Then I got really into church. That's like a different story, but they had skate ramps there, and I kind of fell into that after skateboarding there for a while. But so I got really involved there, and I was volunteering there as well, doing camera work for the live streaming and stuff like that. Sometimes the audio production, I didn't really know what I was doing, but I was just turning knobs until it sounded good. And so I enjoyed that. Same thing, like got mentored. That's where I learned to play basketball and stuff like that. And that was near the tail end of high school. And then after high school, summer break happened, and that was like my first real job where I became a lifeguard pretty much full time during that summer. But I
Mm.
made a bad decision. I didn't research at all. And so I found like a really crazy park, really big park. It's actually like one of the only cricket stadiums is in that park in the US.
Mm.
And so I was a lifeguard there, and it was but I didn't do research. It was like 45-minute drive every morning at 7 a.m. at 18 years old. And I would, and I also didn't use sunblock then, and I was getting burned really bad. I remember I peeled
Mm.
off my entire leg one time in one go. Yeah,
Oh,
crazy time. And so lifeguarding, it taught me like a decent amount about responsibility, but also taught me to maybe plan out a job before you take it or apply.
planning's huge.
Yeah. And so after that, I then I was going to do an internship. So I chose to do an internship before going to college. So I was taking like a leap year or a gap year to do an internship with my church, basically like doing leadership stuff, like learning a lot. And I actually had to pay for that internship. They made me pay, which looking back on it, I was getting scammed. I had to pay $3,000 at 18 years old, and
Right.
to do that, I ended up getting a job at a coffee shop as a barista, and I would work full time as a barista. I'd work 40 hours a week at 18 years old, and then I would go and work the internship 40 hours a week as well. So it was really crazy, and so yeah, it was miserable, but I
Mhm.
really liked being a barista. It was really fun. Same reason I enjoy everything I do is I got to meet people behind the register. Like I'd talk to new customers, I'd build relationships with them, and I thought it was really fun.
Bartending was my favorite job in life because of that too. And I think
Yeah,
it's interesting that me and you end up in the front of the camera, right?
yeah,
I think you have to enjoy people and conversation to do what we're doing. If you don't, it's very difficult.
yep, exactly, literally that. And so I ended up leaving that job because I got like my dream job, which was again, I grew up skateboarding. That was my thing, and there was a skate shop called Zoomies, and it's
Mhm.
it's around now. It's like PacSun, like it's there's stores
Yeah.
all over the U.S. And so then I got a job at Zoomies, and I was like, this is my dream. Like I've always wanted to work here. Like I'm gonna be around skateboarding stuff all the time now because I was shopping there anyways. So I did. I worked at Zoomies for 7 months. It was one of the worst experiences of my life. I was employee of the month, I think 5 months in a row. It was commission based as well. Like you'd have it, you'd get paid, but also you made commissions. And I didn't know this at the time because I'm very trusting and I'm very naive. But the way it works is, you have three different people on the floor, front, middle, back, and then you have
Yeah.
someone at the register.
Yeah.
And each of us employees have our own code, right? It's like I don't know if it was by name or if it was by number, like maybe 121 or whatever. So I would, I'd find someone on the floor, I'd help them make their purchases, whatever, and then I'd send them to the register when they're done. And the person in the register is supposed to enter the person's code who took care of the the customer, and then you get a commission based on their sale. And I was employee of the month. I was selling shit out the door. It was crazy. And I found out after like 4 months of being employee of the month, the person in the register is always the same kid. He was entering his code and taking the commission from me every single month, and I didn't know. Because I'm trusting. I wasn't looking at the paycheck. I wasn't making sure. And then I found that out right after he quit, because then he left. And so that kind of made me pissed off. Also, we had four different managers come in, and like we had four different bosses in the span of the 6 months, 7 months. And one of them, I remember I had my off day at the beach, and I was sitting at the beach, whatever. I got out the water, and this is middle of the day. Got out the water, and I look at my phone. I still have the voicemail on my phone. I saved it, and this is like a long time ago, just to remind me how funny it was. And this lady was like bitching me out. She's like, "You're not here. Like, why the fuck are you here? Your shift started already. If you don't show up in the next 30 minutes, you're fired." And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, this is my day off. This is crazy. I was like, did I fuck up? So then I get in the car, I speed, I go 100 miles per hour, and I get there, and it's like not close at all. I get there really fast. I run into the shop, and I'm drenched in my bathing suit. And she's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And I'm like, "Dude, it's my off day." And she's like, "No, like," she's like, "You better get dressed right now." And the book is on the desk showing people's like shifts. I flip it open. I'm like, "No, look, today's not my day." And she's like, "Oh, yeah, whoops. Okay, see ya." And then and so then I just quit. I was like, "All right, I quit." And so that was that experience. And then, I finished my internship. Things didn't work out the way they were supposed to, and I ended up going to UCF in Orlando, and that's kind of where my part-time job ended up becoming like I started using social media more, got into fitness. I didn't start lifting until the end of high school,
Right.
and then I got really into it, and I saw there were some brands that were hiring like ambassadors, some supplement brands that were hiring ambassadors.
Right.
There was one called BPI that was, I think they're still around, but they were getting really big, making supplements, pre-workouts, protein. So I applied to be an ambassador for them. They said yes. I did my social media stuff, posted whatever, and I was making some money, not a lot, but I was getting a shit ton of free supplements, which to me was paying. And also I had a scholarship going to college, so I wasn't really paying anything. I was actually, when I was at community college, I was getting paid to go to community college because my scholarship went over the cost. And so I didn't need a ton of money. And so I was doing that. And then I picked up modeling because, again, community college, that's the other thing too. Then I went to community college right after the internship. So I didn't go to UCF right away. I did community college for 2 years. That's where I did I got into acting. And I was doing some side stuff for work, nothing like massive. But I didn't really have money that needed to be spent because I was getting paid to go to college. And so then I went to UCF. But with the fitness stuff and the fitness brand, I then started modeling. So I was getting modeling gigs and like some acting gigs, like with commercials. In Florida, in South Florida and Central Florida, acting isn't really a thing. A lot of it is mostly commercials. So I did a commercial for Spectrum, the internet provider. I did a commercial for
Spectrum.
Yeah. So I did commercials like in that sense. Didn't get any real acting gigs because they just weren't around. You needed to go up to Georgia for that. And so, the modeling was paying okay here and there. Doing some hair shows paid like really nice, like really, really nice. I think like one show I did for like 5 hours ended up paying me $6,000. And, as a 20-year-old, that's not that bad. You can live off that pretty well. So, and also rent wasn't expensive back then. It was my 1-1 in Orlando was $1,000 a month, right?
That's 6 months worth of rent, dog.
Yeah, exactly. And it was also a new building, so they needed to get people in the door, so it was pretty cheap. But yeah, and so I did that. Then eventually bodybuilding.com, as I built up my resume with BPI, I saw bodybuilding.com had an opening for an ambassador influencer for UCF Orlando area. So I applied, I got it right away, and that started paying me actual money. And then also even more supplements because they were like a retail, right? They weren't a brand that made supplements. So I got supplements from every single brand. They would give me money to do giveaways. So that was that. So that was my other kind of job. And then as soon as, and it was paying well, the modeling stuff and whatever, it was paying well during college. It wasn't bad. And then I graduated, came back home with my family for a little bit. Then COVID hit. And it was really hard to make money. I was doing some marketing stuff. I was doing contracted marketing for a couple businesses just because that my degree was kind of in line with that with communications. I understood social media. I understood how to go to market. So I was doing go to market. I was doing just general like B2C social media runs. And then that kind of ended as soon as I started getting into crypto. I was like, okay, well, I just made some nice money. Maybe I can do this full time. I wish I would have realized, well, you need to take profit to be able to do this full time. Bro. You see the money up and you're like, you consider that your money, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I can keep doing this. This is nice. And if you're not taking profit, well, you're not really making the money. So when the bull run ended, because I didn't really get in until the top of the bull run, late 2021.
Right.
And then once that ended, I was like, fuck. And that's kind of why I went trial and error, and then I did the music stuff, which paid for like a decent amount in the beginning, but it was diminishing returns. The more releases I made as an artist, the less people were interested.
Yeah.
You know, people like the Genesis, people don't like the continuation releases. And so, yeah, so that was basically it. So I had, even during that time, I was still doing, you know, contracted marketing stuff. And it wasn't only until 6 months ago where I was like, okay, you know what? This is right before the Trump thing too. But I was kind of like, you know what? I'm starting to make really good money trading and I'm taking profits. I can do this. And then everything fell apart. And then in March, around my birthday, I was pretty much considering, you know, I need to find a job. Like I really need to go find something consistent at this point because trading is too inconsistent. I'm not a content creator. I'm not a KOL. I'm not getting brand deals. I'm not, like, no one's paying me anything. Because at that point I had 20K followers in March, but it was like dead followers, right? It was from the 2021 bull run. I wasn't getting engagement. I didn't have any motion. Nobody was coming to me or talking to me. Nobody considered me a creator at all. Right. And so I was like, okay, well, whatever. And then Finn called me. He's like, hey, what do you think about me taking this job with Igloo, right? This was a little bit before, but I remember the conversation happened, and I was like, yeah, because he was with Ronan at the time.
Right.
He was lead marketing for Ronan, and I was like, yeah, I think that actually makes more sense for you, because Finn came up through Super Plastic and working with like these very cultural brands.
Right.
And Luca and that team is more in line with that than something like Ronan, the gaming chain. So he took that job, and then around in March, I was thinking to myself, it was my birthday, and I was like, I should probably give this one more shot, one more go. And I remember looking at Clemente and ICO Beast and their run with Blast. They saw a blockchain that was brand new. They knew that there wasn't a ton of people creating content there. It was a small pond, but there wasn't anyone there. And so they went full on, committed everything, and they became household names in that chain. Yeah. And that kind of carried them to what they could do after that. And so for me, that's kind of what I looked at Abstract. I'm like, okay, well, maybe I can do this with Abstract. And so then I jumped in, and yeah, since then it's been great. So I've been making some more money, locking in some brand deals soon, hopefully. One that I'm very, very excited about. I haven't announced yet, but I think it's going to be really cool to announce and maybe this week. But yeah, so at least down to the part where minimum wage is covered and I don't have to stress too much anymore.
So you said that your journey is really fascinating in the sense that this trying everything and going through all of these experiences continues. And I want your take on this. I have a take, but I want to hear yours first. And it's just the importance of trying new things, the importance of being the master of none, because you've been told a majority of your life that it's a bad thing. So what's your take on it now, looking back, as the benefits to what you did?
Yeah, I think it's the same thing that the founder that I spoke to said. I think back then it wasn't a good thing. But I think after years and years of being a jack in all those trades, I then became, maybe I don't want to say king, but I've acclimated enough experience through all those things and enough skill through all those things to where it makes me have the ability to connect with almost anyone, whether they're in sports, whether they're in music, whether they're, in gaming, whether they're in crypto, whether they're in stocks, whether they're, bodybuilding, right? Like I have the ability to build relationships with almost everyone because I've had my hand and my foot in the door in all these different things to where I can actually have conversations and empathy about most of those things. It's not just niceties or, shallow, oh, that's very cool, nice conversations, right? Like I can connect with people on a deeper level. And so I feel like the jack of all trades things gives me that ability to expand my reach and expand my understanding of people.
Absolutely. I think another benefit in my mind is figuring out what you're good and passionate about. Would you agree with that? Or is it more the connection part for you?
For me, I think it's more the connection part, because I'm still passionate about all those things. Like realistically,
Mm.
I it wasn't like, again, a lot of it comes down to at a certain point I actually have to pay my bills now, right?
Mm.
I'm at the age where I don't want to say you give up on your dreams, but you learn how to pivot while keeping your passion still alive in those things. Like as soon as this bull run's done and I've made enough money and I packed away to where I can be a little comfortable, I'm gonna work on some music for fun, you know, like because I love it. It's my passion. Do I have to make? But you get to the point where now, if you can find things that give you sustainability, you can now treat those things as passions and not have the pressure of making money from those things, right? So I still have the passion on all those things. I would love to act. I would love to do something like that again at some point, where I don't, again, I can not feel the pressure of needing to do it ASAP because I now have bills to pay, right? So the jack of all trades thing for me, I still have my passions, and I still like to me,
I love this take.
I'll continue to find more passions, I believe, right? That's the thing I've learned. When I was younger, I was like, dude, I'm never gonna fucking stop skateboarding. I can't, like, how can people just stop skateboarding? That's insane to me. Like, I love this shit. Okay, now I don't have that same passion, right? Like that it evolves with you as a person. And I think part of that is like also your body. Like at a certain point, it's no longer sustainable, and I'm not going to enjoy it anymore because I'm not as fast. I get hurt too much, right? Like basketball, I love it now, but I'm 50 and I'm not moving like that, and it hurts too much. That's why people play golf.
Oh,
Because,
good.
you know,
Pickleball,
or
golf,
pickleball,
tennis.
exactly. And it's not because it's like,
I'm there, bro.
yeah, but but that's life, right? Your passions evolve around, your situation. And so for me, I think that's always going to be a thing. I'm always going to find new things to be extremely passionate about. I think the difference that I've learned though is the things that I'm passionate about that I'm actually pursuing as a career or something that I really want to impact my life, I have to stick through even when the times are tough or even when it doesn't seem like I'll be the best. I really don't want to ever consider myself like, someone was like, oh, well, maybe you won't be number one and that's okay. And I'm like, yeah, but that's not how I aim for things, right? I still want to aim to be the best I can. And wherever I fall, that's where I fall. Wherever I land, that's where I land. But yeah, so I think like the jack of all trade things for me is more about, I look back on it and it's a skill set in the sense of, now it's a skill set in the sense of like being able to connect to them. But I also think it makes me good at things like, again, content creation. Dude, now I have video editing skills and audio editing skills from my music and from when I was doing the internship at the church, right? Like I can use that kind of stuff. When I'm making gaming content, I spent so many years gaming and trying to be really good at games that now that comes into play, right? And so even fitness, like if I do a fitness stream, like, if I ever want to do something like that, my years of fitness come into play. So to me, it also just kind of, it allows you to look back. You can't connect the dots in the moment, but you can connect the dots looking back. And I think all those things kind of accumulate to who you are as a person. And then the things you do, you can use those to be the best you can in the new thing that you found.
Yeah, 100%, man. And what I'm hearing you ultimately say is, and this is a tried and true principle, and this is what people need to take away from the things that you've done, is you're just not going to be successful, quote unquote, in the business world staying stagnant. And if you do not try new things, whether it's passion or not, I like your fact of passion evolves over time for sure. I also do think it's if you align purpose with passion, you can get to a point like myself where it's almost like a spiritual thing. I'm like, I know I was meant to do this because it's made an impact on humanity. And I think you ultimately get to that goal of what, because this is the follow-up question I wanted him. My light bulb moment was like, I need to find something I'm passionate about. One, that I'm really good at. Two, that ultimately makes an impact on humanity. That is the holy trinity that I've found. And I hope everybody can find that. And now there are different forms of fashion. What are your thoughts on that?
I think the last part is something that doesn't really come until you have, I want to say age, but it might just be experience.
I would say wisdom. There's another way of saying wisdom.
Yeah, but it's not only just wisdom, but I think in the sense of that sense of, I want to find something that's bigger than just me. I feel like that comes with life experience, because you start hitting goals and you realize these goals don't give you fulfillment. And so then you're like, okay, well, I've made my 6 figures. And that's why you see a lot of, people eventually they make all this money and they start to transition to, people will say it for nefarious reasons, but I do think there comes a point where people make so much money. So that's a reason why they start charities. I know people are going to say, oh, well, it's for write-offs, but I genuinely do feel like there is a certain point where, you make 6 figures, you make 7 figures, you make 8 figures, and you're like, okay, well, the game doesn't end like that. Like, it's diminishing returns on investment of joy.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, well, what's the next thing then? And then it's impacting other people, right? It's helping other people. It's guiding other people because you've already achieved it. What else is there at this point? And so I think that's a life thing. I think like I'm kind of getting to that point. I was there before. I was doing volunteer work and stuff like that. And a really big part of my thing was helping other people. But then I realized I was helping other people, not myself. I was pouring out and I wasn't getting filled. I was also not taking care of myself financially. I never knew anything about financials. I never knew anything about entrepreneurship up until 3 years ago in crypto. And I started learning the hard way. And I realized like, damn, I wish I would have at least taken care of myself and learned some of this stuff. But again, I think that purpose and wanting to do something that helps other people and that builds that, I really feel like for most people, 99% of people, that doesn't come until they start hitting goals and realizing that it's not fulfilling them.
Yeah.
Right. And that's whether it's monetary goals or, accolades. I think eventually you hit those and you're like, okay, well, this isn't fulfilling. It's just like being a parent. Like a lot of people find fulfillment in being a parent that they never imagined, because now you're actually helping someone, you're taking care of someone, you're guiding them, you're bettering their life. And so, yeah, again, I think wisdom is for sure that, like, definitely, but I think it's also a sense of value, right? Like value out of what you're doing in life.
So you actually touched on what my follow-up question is. So Star-Lordy said something that I had never heard it framed. And like, this is what I love what we do too, right? On this show, and you're doing it as well on your show, is, dude, these principles are not, like, I literally talk about the same thing on every podcast, but it's your story of how it's implemented, of hard work over time, trying new things, learning, growing, all of these different things, right? He said, one of his mentors at one point said, when you make all the money in the world, all it does is put a magnifying glass on who you are as a human being.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you either start charities or you use it for bad.
Yeah.
Which brings me to the real question, is sense of self-reflection. And you made this comment. You were like, I was doing charity, but I was doing it for everyone else. And I had not figured myself out on how to help myself out first. And I am firmly convinced the reason why a lot of this world is so messed up is people never have that hard conversation with themselves and understand who they are as a human being. They blame everybody else. Have you had that conversation? If not, how important do you think that is? Because I think it's actually probably one of the most important, if not the most important thing a human being can do.
Had the conversation with myself as in,
who are you? What do you value?
Yeah.
What drives you?
I mean, I think I was always kind of, again, like what drives me was always tough because I equated it to like what I was doing. Right.
Right.
And so it was,
I think a lot of people do that. And I think that's not the answer.
Yeah. And so I kind of always knew a little bit that I really liked helping people to a degree, or connecting with people, right? Because it was just a constant that was in everything I did. But yeah, I don't think I really had a conversation with myself. I think it was just some things I noticed through time where you can connect the dots looking back and you're like, okay, what are the commonalities among all these things that I've done? And usually it's people, right? It's community. And so that's really what's driven me. But I also I just didn't take the time. I grew up with zero. And when I said filling, like, you know, I was getting mentored in ways and people were, you know, helping me, mentoring me and filling my cup in certain ways. But I then got to the point as an adult, a young adult, where I looked around. I'm like, okay, well, and this is not a special case for me, but I looked around and said, I'm really behind financially. Like I'm really, I don't know how to make money. I don't know, because everything I had done was always for free almost, right? All the volunteer work. I never knew one thing about business. I never knew one thing about sales. I never knew one thing about, you know, anything in that sense. So I kind of got to a point where I was, you know, I was volunteering all this kind of stuff, but I look around, I was building everyone's businesses. I was building everyone's, you know, churches. I was building everyone, like whatever. And I look back at it and it's not like I could be salty. You are the only person to blame. It was just, I didn't take the time to learn about stuff myself. I didn't take the time to build myself up, in that sense. And I don't want to make it seem like everything is financially driven, right? I don't want to make it seem like all that, but I just think that was a massive thing that hit me as a young adult, where I realized, you know, my friends had done real internships. Everyone had already started courses that led them to where they are with their jobs. People were starting side hustles. People were building stuff. And then I got, you know, after COVID, I realized like, damn, I have nothing. Like I'm doing contracted work for these businesses, but like I actually have nothing. I know it's probably off topic, but yeah, it's
no.
For me, that was kind of like where I had a conversation with myself and I'm like, okay, well, it's probably time to, you know, I like working with people, but I also probably need to be selfish in this point in my life.
Yes.
Cause you know, I was too busy. And I will say also, I think it came from a sense of insecurity again, where I was never an entrepreneur. And even to this day, like in Web3, I've had ideas of products and services that I wanted to build all the time. And I'd get to the draft stage of these things, but I never had the confidence to start them and fail. And so I think that's another big thing. I never had the confidence back then to go out there and try to make something and fail. And so now I look back at that and I was like, okay, well, you know, people use the word perfectionism a lot as an excuse to not do something. And I realized I was using the word perfectionism a lot. Like, oh, it needs to be perfect. I can't launch this until it's perfectly ready. I don't want to make content until I have everything laid out perfectly and I have this really nice rollout. And I think it was Beeple who said it when I went to one of his things in 2021, where he said, perfectionism is a blanket cover for insecurity. Like if you're secure in what you're going to do, you're just going to put it out. You'll learn from failure, whatever. But if you're continuously putting it off, it's because you're not confident in putting yourself out there and taking negative feedback and failing.
Right. But this is not off topic at all. You answered my question. You have had these internal monologues and trying to put together the drive of what you're doing, which was that community and people. This is life is all grays, man. And this is why we have these conversations, because at some point you can't be all idealistic. You got to pay the bills, right? And so that's what drove you as well too. So it's the one thing that you said though, and then we can touch on Web3 and start winding it down, because I got a meeting that I eventually got to go to here. But this has been a phenomenal conversation. I lost my train of thought. It was such a good thought, bro.
Chapter 3, thought.
No, it was you. Oh, this is it. You mentioned this, and I think this is one of the. Have you read the book The Four Agreements?
The Four Agreements?
Yeah.
I think I used to see my mom read it a lot. It's like the
Yes.
one that has like the 4 tiles. It's like
Yes.
4
Yeah.
different colors, like flowers or something like that.
Definitely read it.
Okay.
These societal pressures of what you think you should be doing. All your friends are doing these things. You're not doing these things. That drives you. Over time, your understanding of yourself, I think, changes. And I actually think the more that you can throw that out the window, the more creative, the more successful, the more interesting you become as a human being. Do you agree with that sentiment, or what are your thoughts on,
Yeah.
kind of these outsides?
No, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not even arguable. I agree.
Yeah. And I think that's the struggle that everybody needs to understand is like, again, listen, you got to put a roof over your head. You got to put food on the table. I get it. But that should be the minimum part of what you're doing. The rest of what you're trying to figure out is, I don't think you acquire true happiness, greatness, whatever you want to describe it as, until you're your true self.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you should not be you should be unapologetic about that. Unless you're being a complete dickhead and, hurting other people's lives intentionally, you should be able to have an opinion. And we're so stuck in this box of like, you have to be this way. You can't say certain things, which is just such a bad, I think we're going in a bad direction. I think I'm going to tweet this today. I think this is an interesting thought. I think actually, if we do AI right, it's one of the things that we can save ourselves from humanity is like putting back better conversations online. Like AI could do that for it. Like, how ironic is it that a computer bot could make online more human by putting better messages online? Does that make sense to you?
How would that look like?
Online AI agents that are identities that are having meaningful conversations opposed to immediately degrading to being a shithead.
Well, also because AI doesn't fall under societal or like they don't fall under social
100%.
pressure, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So it brings back, how crazy is that thought?
Yeah.
I just came to that last night. I was like in the shower. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
AI could it save humanity if we do it right. It's just a wild thought. Yeah, there's not much to talk about because we're both in agreement. Web3 Chapter 3. We're rapidly approaching 300 people watching. Come on, retweet, comment, do all of these things. TLDR, and just take me to more current state. What have you learned over these last 3 years that you think could benefit people other than take profits?
Take profits. No, I would say one, really to learn how to have thick skin. And I think this comes into this is a general life thing, but when you're on social media, it's not, and this is not tied to just crypto, but when you're someone in social media, it is not like normal. The mind is not built to have, and again, this really happens if you go viral or if you're a bigger creator, but it's really, the brain is not meant for this type of parasocial behavior. And so, I've had periods where I did something not dumb necessarily, but like I just put myself in a position where there was one thing where someone copied my identity during Rat King and basically rugged for $3 million and then deleted their account, but people thought it was me. And so I would wake up to like death threats for weeks every morning, to hundreds of death threats, and my brain couldn't handle it, and I went to like full on depression mode. And so I think, now that's a rare case that doesn't happen to many people, but
I think it happens more than you think.
Yeah, but like I don't think the average person has
getting attacked, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, the situation is very small.
Right, but I think like having thick skin would have saved me a lot of time because I spent a lot of time sulking. Even with trades, you hit a bad trade, you spend a lot of time sulking, and you miss out on opportunities, whether it's, you know, not just financial, but just any opportunity that can proceed because you have your head down, you're hurting. So I think having thick skin is one of the biggest lessons I learned that I wish I would have been better at. I would say the other one, and these are hard lessons I learned, or these are just tips that I have?
Hard lessons you've learned, man.
Yeah.
Hard lessons.
I would say one of them, the other one, and it kind of leans into that, is opportunities will always come. If something doesn't work out, it's okay, and you didn't fail. You know, like for instance, I fumbled an 800K trade the other day, and I was very, very depressed. But I also looked back and I said, wait, I've done this a lot of times actually. And that also means that there's going to be more opportunities that come by. If I've fumbled a million times, that probably means that there's a million more chances. You just have to sit back and learn it and pick apart. And same thing with content. You know, I've fumbled a lot of content opportunities. I fumbled a lot of deal opportunities, and I don't sulk, like maybe for like an hour. But if you keep your head down, you're going to miss the things in front of you that are coming your way.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of ties into the first thing a little bit. And then the other one is like hard lesson, but you got to learn financials. You do. Like you have to understand money. I was so obsessed with being a creator and being so like passion and that I wasn't learning the actual side of things that can really hurt, like make or break you, which is understanding how money works, understanding how business works, understanding like how deals are made, and being taken, because I've been taken advantage of so many times. It's insane. And that was because I had this notion in my head where I had to be a creative. I had to be passionate and like I wanted to be this artsy guy, you know, and do all these cool things. And then because I didn't spend any time learning about, you know, business, money, deals, any of that stuff, I was getting fucked left and right. I was getting hurt. I was getting taken advantage of. And I look back and I'm like, dude, that's like something that even goes to blockchain. Some people are in this space who have still not understood how like blockchain works, how how to sleuth, how to look at transactions, and like you have to understand all these things, or else you will be taken advantage of. You will lose a lot because you didn't spend the time doing the boring stuff, which was learning that side of things.
Dude, amazing insight. The two things I want to, so here's, and I've got this other idea about education. This would be an example of it, is you have all this experiences. I think we have a huge opportunity for education in this space as well too. I think it's an untapped gold mine, to be honest. The thick skin.
Yeah.
How is your manifestation of dealing with that? What do you think about like the actual tangibles? I'm building thick skin. What was your process?
Just like lifting weights or playing guitar, right? You're tearing, you're building calluses. Like that's it. So for me, it was, I had to keep callousing, and I had to keep getting hurt. I had to keep tearing that muscle to build it. I had to keep, you know, when you're lifting weights, you're tearing this up and it's getting tougher and tougher and tougher.
Yep.
And so for me, that was basically it. I think it's the same thing with trading. You can hear as much advice as you want about how to take profit, how to not be emotional as a trader. You can hear it as much as you want, but it doesn't matter. Like you're going to most likely have to go through it and eat shit to finally understand it. Someone could tell you, hey, take profit, and then you're up 10x and you're like, wait, this might go 100x. I was told a million times, like, hey, take profit, like smart people who are wise. But there's just some things where it really takes life experience to build it and to learn. I think having thick skin is one of those things. When you think you have thick skin, I promise you something will happen and you'll realize, okay, I didn't have as thick skin as I thought. And that just comes, you know, you become number to it, and maybe numb is not the right word, but you do. You become less impacted, you know. Same thing as you get older. Most of the time, I mean, hopefully most of the time people don't really in middle school and high school, like it made such a big impact, and it was so heavy to get validation from others, and then you go through life, you're like, it doesn't really matter that much, you know.
Yeah.
And so same thing with thick skin. People are gonna talk shit. You learn how to deal with it.
And I think you hit the nail on the head. Same thing. I had a huge self-realization in my 30s, which was I thought because I was a creative guy and I went to design school and I was running brands and doing all this stuff, I'm like, I'm so open to change. Yeah. All I want is change. And then my wife was like, I want to move across the country. And you start eyeing down life change. Yeah. I realized, holy crap, I hate change. I'm not even close. But how did I get comfortable with it? Which I now really do embrace it. I moved across the country. Yeah. Forced myself to get a job in like Silicon Valley, which is one of the most competitive places in the world. But I got a job. I got a good job. And then the current company I'm at, I'm shit you not, man, I've had like 7 different titles in like 4 years. And you want to talk about just a constant whirlwind, right? Like that was my version of that. And I couldn't agree more with that.
Yeah. Well, and then you eventually learn how to adapt to those changes pretty fast.
100%. And it just doesn't, to your point, I'm at the point where it just doesn't affect me, but it has also given me the tool set to understand how to adapt and make the best of that situation. Yep. Because I've seen so many variations of it at this point. Yeah. I think one of the biggest insights again is self, right? Understanding. I always say so it's about 8 years ago that I moved out west. The most amazing thing that's happened to me is my self growth, my self reflection, and now I know who I am as a human being. Crazy leaps and bounds. Even though I did cool things in my career, it was all about self. But this is also understanding people, man.
Yeah.
Coming down to understanding where you want to spend your time and where you don't want to waste your time. And I don't think people understand or put enough, because I think a lot of people interpret the situation again as like, oh, this is bad. This is unlucky for me. And it's like, no, you have a choice. You have a choice to go find the people that you want to be around. Yeah, and I promise you, when you make that choice and surround yourself with the right people, magical things happen.
Yeah, and also things aren't permanent, right? Like if something doesn't work out, okay, well, like maybe move back. Maybe you guys figure something out. Like, that's the one thing I've also learned is, yeah, like a lot of these decisions that you feel like are massive. Okay, if it doesn't work out, you'll find something. Like it's not the end of the world.
100%. And that is another huge thing. If you can get to the mentality of that, but truly believe it, right? Again, it's just a huge unlock.
Yeah.
Because now it allows you to be more creative, try new things. And if it doesn't work out, you know that you've built then this foundational skill set that you can get a job at. Doc from The Forge, he's building in RWA real estate. And he said it the best. He was like, dude, I have a 20+ year career in real estate. He's like, I can do any job for at least a year. He's like, it could all blow up in my face tomorrow, but I know I could go find a job and do it for a year. And within that year, I will figure out what my next step is. And getting to that mentality is huge. Yeah. Last thing I want to talk about, and then we can kind of wind it down. The financial part is huge. And so your insights on, I actually, when you talk about understanding financials, what does that mean to you? And then I have one more question and we can talk about the future. I have one question that I ask every guest and then we'll call it a day.
Sure. I think one, it's about sitting down and being realistic. And I think this is mostly like when you're transitioning out of young adulthood into adulthood, is realizing there are no helping hands anymore. Or maybe there are, but you really you shouldn't be taking advantage of them, and you really should be starting to figure out things for yourself. I think sometimes you get stuck in dreamer mode when you have a support system that you're not realistic with yourself, and then that time comes to where that support system dwindles down, and you look around, and you're like, fuck, well, I was too busy dreaming. I wasn't actually like locking in and finding ways to make money that are sustainable. And so I think that's one big thing, at least for transitioning from young adulthood to adulthood, that I think most people really need to start understanding.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of people get stuck in a position where they're not building skill sets, they're not being intentional, and so then they get to a point where they're like, fuck, okay, well, now I'm not making money. And I'm not saying not blame the government, and so, like, there are some
Right.
things for sure that are external that suck ass that you can't control, that should be better. But at the end of the day, like, you still have to make shit happen, right? It, like,
100%.
doesn't matter. And so I think that's one massive thing. I think the other thing too is someone, at least in my position, where, you know, you're trying to be a creator, you're trying to maybe be an entrepreneur. When I say financials, also, I do mean part of understanding how money functions with the type of people that function with money. Right? I think it's a different type of beast. The people that are in financial areas, right? When I left, again, because when I grew up, all I was doing was, you know, playing sports, making music, volunteer work, and then like some retail jobs on the side. But I was never involved with money, sales, actual financial markets, or anything like that. The type of person is completely different. People are sharks. People are pieces of shit. People are snakes.
Right.
And even if it's not always malicious, people are not looking out for you because money's now heavily involved. And so I think like a big part of understanding financials is kind of also hand in hand with that. Probably wasn't the best way to line it up, but if you're going into stuff like that really deals with real money, and is not a WAGMI environment, right?
Right.
Because trading crypto, like this environment is very different than things in the real world. It really is. It's totally different.
Yep.
People are only out for themselves for the most part, and understanding, you know, where your money is, understanding that verbal deals with money it is literally pointless and worthless. Understanding how contracts work, understanding that you need contracts made. Again, understand, if you're in crypto, understand how the blockchain actually works. Learn how to be on top of transactions, learn how to read things, because that will save you a lot of hurt. Part of it is also like you're going to eat shit when you work with people in the beginning, because you're not going to understand the telltale signs of someone who's a bad actor. Now I'm at the point now where I can look at people in this financially driven space, and I can see personality traits. I can see small little actions that, again, like I love pattern. Like I'm naturally good at pattern recognition. And so now I've kind of downloaded, okay, this type of personality continuously has done bad things, like among the board with people.
Can you give me an example?
You know, just the people that are nonstop self-glazing, like the people who always continuously talk about how good they are at something, how rich they are, how great of a source of knowledge they are. Like, you know, if people, and this is like not like a profound thing, but if people have to always tell you how good they are at something, they're probably not. If people always have to tell you how rich they are, they're probably not. It's either that or that's their only source of validation and they're very insecure. And usually they tie in kind of together. They're insecure about their wealth, so they always tell people about their wealth. They're insecure about how good their product is, so they always tell people how good they're. And you know, you'll slowly pick up on the differences about someone who's confident and someone who's insecure, right? You can boast. Like I will never really say, and I have it in my bio for like brands to look at, but I will never say like, oh, I'm the #1 creator on Abstract. Like, oh, I'm the top guy. I am the best creator. Like, I don't really, because I've found that there's strength in people saying something for you than you saying it yourself, right? If I tell you, oh, I'm such a cool guy, like what the fuck? That's weird. If someone says, oh, Eli's a cool guy, that has value. Right. Like you shouldn't have to tell. So that's something that I really learned as a telltale sign. If people always have to tell you how rich they are, how well connected they are, like if people are constantly, that is their personality, to me, that's always a red flag. And I usually stay away, or I keep them from an arm's distance. So for me, that was a big sign, because I didn't realize it when, you know, you first get started and you're like, oh wow, this dude, this guy's really, you know, he really knows his shit. Look how well he makes a lot of money. He he must be really good at making money. I should follow his trades. Oh, this guy's very successful. He's always talks about how successful his businesses are. So I should say yes to the deal that he's offering me. Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I've done that so many times, and it led me astray 99% of the time. So that was a massive thing for me.
Yeah, dude, love that insight. The last question, and then we'll talk about the next 3 to 6 months. I'll ask you the last like formal question. The art of the deal. You said that. I love this. This is my biggest struggle. I hate sales, man. I hate it. I don't like asking for money. I just love what I do. I want to provide value. And again, I know I could have made a lot more money. Like I think the value that I provide is insane. And people take advantage of that. Now, there's part of it that is my business strategy too. My target market doesn't have a lot of money, so that's okay. I'm willing to make that sacrifice. But for you, what is the art of the deal? What are one or two aha moments that are like, this has really helped me out when it comes to push comes to shove? I'm providing a service, and I expect value in return.
So I'll be perfectly honest. That is my weakest, honestly, one of my weakest traits, and I'm still trying to figure that out. I have not taken like an actual deal yet. You know, I had a protocol, or like a new chain, whatever. They're moving to abstract. Had them on. Their market cap tripled while they were on my show.
Right.
And I think they felt bad. They're like, hey, like here's some money, like in the token, like this makes sense, right? And so like I was like, okay, yeah, that's nice. But I think it's hard because I look at, you don't want to be a sellout, which whatever that means. I think like I look at that saying more and more, and I'm like, no, I don't mind selling. Like if I'm providing, like I should be charging. But I think it's tough, one, because this actually goes back to which is another lesson, is knowing how to talk about money. I feel extremely uncomfortable whenever I have to talk about money. I feel very unconfident when I have to counter an offer. Like someone offered me, there's just a game, which I think I'm going to move forward with. And again, it goes back to knowing where it's like, okay, is this my ego telling me don't take deals, like be pure? But like, like who cares? Like no one cares. If I'm already talking about a game, I should be getting paid. Like, why not? Because I'm already, it's not changing my behavior. But there's a game that reached out and they're like, hey, like, here's a deal, right? And I looked at it, and I'm so used to I'm not making any money. And I looked at it, I'm like, oh, wow, wow, I can make some money. And then I showed it to my friend who's a big content creator, and he's like, dude, that's a fucking bad deal. He's like, you are, he was like, dude, you're, to me, at least to him, you know, to other, like, I'm the top guy in abstract to him because he doesn't have any other exposure to abstract other than following me.
Right.
And he's like, dude, you're the top guy in abstract, and this is how much content they want you to put out of this game for this much. I would never take that. Like, you need to counter or just not take it. And I was like, fuck. And I didn't want to counter because it makes me feel uncomfortable asking for money. And then also I'm unconfident because I'm like, okay, well, if I ask for too much, they're going to be like, oh, fuck that. Like, he's not worth that. And then they just move on from me. And so, you know, the other day I countered with an offer. I went very high, but an amount that I felt was fitting for where I am now in the space. They countered back, and that was it. And it kind of made me realize, I'm like, okay, like I can just counter, like I can just throw an offer back that I feel is worth it, and they'll counter back, and that's it. Like, you can't, it's just like being scared of rejection from asking someone on a date. You literally will never get the answer if you don't do it.
Yeah.
As cliche as it is. And so for me, the art of the deal, honestly, at least what I'm learning is it's okay to counter. It's okay to ask for what you feel is worth it. And then you have to sit back and figure out, is there a compromise? You also have to sit back and realize your value to them as a creator. Like, if part of it comes down to also just being realistic about the business themselves. If they're a startup and they don't have a ton of money, like, you know, you might want more money, but you sit back, you're like, okay, well, if I was running a business and I wanted a good creator, but I didn't raise money or whatever, it's like, okay, well, there's a limitation to what you can do. And you pray that
100%.
that creator has faith in you or says okay to you. And so I think there's always intricacies in it. But for me, at least, it's it's learning that it's okay to say yes. And so that's why I think this week I'll announce 2 of them. Um, and you know, I was scared. I really was, because I was like, okay, well, I don't want to be someone who looks like they're just saying yes to deals all the time. I don't want to lose something that Gary Vee, I don't think it was him who made it up, but I remember him saying it last was, and this can be part of the art of the deal for people as well, but give, take, jab, hook, right? You don't want to lose goodwill by taking. And part of that comes with brand deals. If you're just to your audience, you're doing deal, you know, you become a sellout, you become boring to them. You just become a public billboard to them. And so I think part of that was my fears. Like, I don't want to lose my value or my goodwill to my audience because now I'm monetizing them, right? Like, that's a fear that you have, that you're advertising to them. But again, part of it comes down to, you have to pay the bills one way or another. If you've built your audience in a way to where they're understanding, and the deal is also ethical, you're not hurting them with it. You know, it's not extractive to them necessarily. Like, if I was to do a gambling game, you know, would that be extractive if it was a game I was already playing on abstract all the time, something that people were playing all the time anyways? You know, the only difference is now that I actually get paid for posting about it, you know, like that's to where it's like, as long as you're communicating and you're not being extractive and you're disclosing your deals. Yes. I think that's kind of where,
especially a gambling deal, bro.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that's kind of where it's like, you know, you just have to be honest with yourself. Is this okay for my audience? Is it not? Now, you know, luckily in crypto, it's a little different. Everyone's pretty much exposed, because trading meme coins is also gambling, right? Like, all these things are risk on approaches. And so, you know, luckily the ones I'm doing that I'm partnering with are officially audited by Abstract, and they work with Abstract. So I'm not worried in any case like that. But yeah, I think not being scared to ask for your self-perceived value. But I think also part of the art of the deal is understanding, and this is where most people fail, is understanding your value.
Dude, right? I was gonna say, you took it out of my mouth.
But it's the truth, because ego, insecurity, it leads us to feel like, no, I'm worth more. And sometimes you're just not, and that's okay. Then you need to go and build your value more. Like 3 months ago, I had no emotion. Right, I had 20K followers, but they were all dead basically. 100%. You know, no one's gonna see value in me, and guess what? I accepted it. I looked at my account. I'm like, if I was a business, would I pay me? No, because no one sees your potential, right? You can say I have a ton of potential. I can be the best content creator on Abstract. I can be the best interviewer, right? But like that doesn't matter. Potential is not tangible. You have to make that potential reality. And so businesses aren't going to bet on your potential. Now, they might bet on your trajectory if you've put out work that's tangible, and they're like, okay, well, he's on this growth. Like, we can see him. He's putting out content. Like, the trajectory makes sense. It's going up here. And so they can invest in that sense. But so I think it's just people being realistic and saying, hey, they're offering me this much money to do this much. Fuck, I definitely deserve more. But then you have to look at yourself and be like, well, am I actually performing as well as other people in the space? Right? Like, am I going to be, and it's not just that, but it's also like, as a business, you have to understand, am I going to be increasing their sales? Am I going to be increasing their users? Am I going to be like, you know, because anyone can say, oh, like, I could do great, but then they look at KPIs and they look at actual metrics, and they'll know if you're actually performing well or not, up to what you're being paid as well. So I think the hard part too, and the art of the deal, is understanding your own value. Stop blaming other people for perceiving your value as less, and put in the work.
Yeah. And so that's it. It boils down to, this is the big unlock for me. And it is because value comes in many different forms, right? To your point, the type of content, the quality of content, people get very stuck on the vanity metrics, which is a very big frustration, right? Because a big number, like you said, 20K followers means nothing if nobody is engaging and you're not getting impressions. It literally,
especially now on X, where impressions are public, where they used to not be.
Yeah.
Right? Like, followers were the only thing you could tell, because then people would buy all their stuff, and people with big followers would get all the impressions. But now, or get all the deals, but now that impressions are are visible, and a lot of these accounts with 100K followers get like no impressions,
Dude.
you know, brands look at that differently now.
Yeah, I have 13,500 followers. I get more impressions than accounts with 100K.
Yeah.
You know, and so that right there. But here was the unlock for me, is you need to truly believe in the value that you're selling, right?
Yes. Yes.
So if it comes to vanity metrics, and you always, as a content creator, go straight to the vanity metrics because that's what you're forced to think, that that's what you're selling. But when I flip the narrative to say, I'm selling one of the most authentic, genuine, centered podcasts that exist in the space, and I think above, if you are interested in that content, that is the value I provide. And if you don't, that's totally cool. But if you want that, you should be paying me for that.
Yeah.
And that was the unlock, because now I fully believe in what I'm providing as a value, and people are interested in paying for that, which is cool. You just got to, again, to your nuance, there's nuances, and then now finding that target market.
And I will say, I think the hard part too, especially when you're starting off, I'm starting to get to the point now where I'm not reaching out to anyone, right? Like now everyone's reaching out to me, which is a blessing, because when you walk to a table, you don't have leverage, right? Like when you walk to someone, they're the one who have the power. When people come to you, you're the one who has the power. And so it's difficult because as you're starting, everyone wants a deal. And I think in crypto, it's a little different. Like people do have money and people are willing to throw it at anyone when they're desperate, like as a starting business. But I think it's tough when you're starting because, you know, I want to reach out to this business. Maybe I can get a deal. Maybe I can partnership. But it's important to understand that when you're walking to the table, you automatically lose a lot of value that you can leverage there. And that's fine. Like sometimes that is okay. And if you're willing to eat shit on that deal and it helps, and maybe those deals are good for you to get. Like, you know, I continuously said no to exposure deals because when I was a model, all the time it was, oh, we can't pay you, but like, you know, it's good for exposure. Like this brand will be good for you. And I look back in it and it's like 9 out of 10 times that was not true. That exposure did not make any significant difference. Now, if Magic Eden or like OpenSea was like, hey, like we can't pay you, but you'll be on the front page, like whatever, that's a little different, right? When it's a business that, or a person or a product that you really look at and think, okay, well, I might not be getting the best financial deal out of this, but this can really solidify my validation and help me in the long run. I think that can be worth it. But a lot of times when you walk to these people and you're looking for deals and you're the ones making the initial move, just be prepared to understand that you are not the one with the value in that conversation.
Dude, I love that. But here's what you also said and what I heard you say, and I think it's very important for especially content creators to understand. Value is not always getting paid in dollars. Value can come in the form of an unlock to a level up of a network, getting NFTs, getting token, right? Like there are so many other ways to do that.
Yeah,
you got a thought.
I would say be careful about getting tokens as payment. I really do think that's sometimes a pretty bad idea. One, because those tokens go down in value. They can go up. They can go up in value, but also it puts you in a weird position to where then you have to nuke the company's token to get paid. It depends on the token, right? Like maybe it's a massive business and it makes zero impact on their chart, but also maybe it looks bad on relationships with them. And then also, I don't know your own legal position, like your own like jurisdictions or your country's laws, but then when you have to make a trade, does that count as capital gains to then like to get that money, right?
100%.
So I think tokens for me are scary because also businesses use it to take advantage of you instead of just paying you.
Oh, absolutely. I'm just saying, again, this goes down to the client. Like if they don't have any money, all I'm saying is there are different ways to get value, or something as simple as they have a great community and a big following, promote my brand, get them to follow me. Get them to engage with me,
But I
because
think if
that
you do
can,
that, it's like you're saying right now, you better make sure that they give you the value that you deserve when it comes to exposure and connections. Because a lot of times, I think like people get so excited, like you're saying, and they get bright eyed and they're like, oh yeah, they'll work. Like, yeah, they'll tweet me, whatever. And they do the most like basic thing that
oh,
literally gets like floats
oh,
away. So if you're
yeah,
doing for exposure, like you're saying, like really make sure that in the deal you make, and it's not just a verbal deal, right? Like really try to make sure it's written down so you have everything aligned,
yeah,
and get that value out of them. Because I do agree with you. I think that stuff can be super valuable, but really, again, it comes back to one of the life lessons I've learned in this space. Really make sure you have everything written down so that they follow through on all the things.
yep, 100%, man. So next 3 to 6 months from you, I'll ask that formal question. I'll give you my final comments and we'll shut it down. This has been a phenomenal conversation. We've been talking for 2 hours now.
Yeah.
It's felt like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
What does the next 3 to 6 months look like for my man Eli?
Yeah, I think content will definitely level up for sure. I spent time with Clemente. Again, if you guys don't know who Clemente is, massive content creator on Twitter, on crypto now. And we were sitting down. He's like, dude, you just don't really create enough content. You don't. Like, people know you for being content creator and abstract, but you're streaming maybe 4 times a week for an hour and a half long, but you're not actually making videos. You're not posting a bunch of stuff. You're just tweeting. And so it kind of opened my eyes that I'm probably functioning at like 5% of where I should be.
Yep.
And so I think over the next 3-6 months, you'll see more content, more intentional content, higher quality, more activity from that side. I think you'll see me partner with bigger brands in meaningful ways, where I can have like a really strong impact, not just necessarily like one-off deals or anything like that, but I think like real long-term partnerships to where I can help make an impact on abstract, maybe crypto in general. We'll see, hopefully. Maybe launch something ever. If I'd love to be a founder one day, but only for something that actually makes a difference in the space, that fills a gap that I feel like needs to be filled. See more trading stuff from me, but I do think like the content thing is where you'll see it ramped up significantly. I think you'll start seeing real intentional content being made, because I feel like at this point right now, most of my content comes from being reactionary, not being the first mover to make stuff. Making tweets that are dependent on things that happen in the moment, but never like intentionally producing content that is scripted or intentional or meant to be outside of the moment of the day.
And I think you have to have a mix of it all.
Yeah.
I think it's a Gary Vee mantra, right? Here's the other thing. It's very difficult as a content creator is you see what other things are working for different people. But back to this conversation of, this is why I love having these conversations. We already talked about this. You're an individual.
Yeah.
And you just never know. Like, the internet's a wild place in the sense that you could literally be doing a video of you walking your dog and having one thought, and it's a 15-second video. That shit'll pop off, man.
Yep. Yeah.
Like I was talking to Zubik, and was in a space yesterday, and it was the same thing. He, as a joke, was just making, in jest, people were paying 50 ETH for these Decentraland plots in 2022, right? Dude, this shit went viral, and literally people were talking about it on LinkedIn. And they're like, oh, look at this idiot. He paid 50 ETH for a piece of land. And it goes to show how the internet works. But unless you don't try, you just don't know. And it's okay to put out a piece of content and completely flop, because you will eventually get there if you keep on trying. I'm totally with the comment. This is my issue, right? Like, this is me as a content creator. The thing that we talked about earlier that I struggle with is I have made the decision that the other things in my life are more important than me trying to put out 10 pieces of content a day. And that's just the consequence of my decisions that I have to deal with. But that doesn't mean I still can't try varieties of content to see what works and get better.
Right. Well, that's what me and him were talking about, because, he's tried so many different types of content over the last 2 years. And the dancing, like, he just started doing the dancing stuff like a couple months ago, and it just clicked. And so now he's running with that. And now he's running with like some other like reactionary content that's been hitting. And part of that goes back to, again, the insecurity of failing. And,
Yeah.
you know, again, going back to my biggest song on Spotify, it is the song I thought was going to perform the worst, right? But I still put it out anyways. And it ended up being the best. It ended up doing the best. And you never know. I don't think, but again, even with you, like, I don't think it needs to be 10 pieces of content a day, right? I think it's, sometimes it goes back to what I was saying, where it's more intentional content. Like, I'd rather work on like a fun video that is scripted, that might be like 20 seconds long, than put out, you know, 10 reactionary posts videos a day. Just because, which one is better for your brand, which one might, again, you can't control success, right? Sometimes you can manufacture a little bit, but a lot of it comes up to luck. Maybe people receive something differently. But like the dancing thing, Clemente just did that, and it ended up hitting. He didn't expect it to blow up. So you never know.
Now he's doing these parodies on the interviews, which are
exactly, and they're doing great. And so again, but that's just trial and error. Like, you do enough stuff to where you're like, okay, well, this works, this kind of worked, what worked in this that I can take over to this. And so I think that just comes from you putting out content and being consistent. I think that's the superpower that I'm starting to learn how to have, and that I think really defines, you know, success in general, whether it's even like meme coins in the space, whether it's NFT projects, whether it's content creators, whether it's founders. The difference is that they continue to go even during the downswings. Even when they lose momentum, they're still working and building and trying stuff. And then eventually, you know, something will click when that moment of luck comes. So I think, yeah, those next 3 to 6 months, it's going to be me continuously trying. Hopefully, you know, hopefully I do become that guy on Abstract. Hopefully Abstract does well after TGE, and it's something that we can continue to build on. Hopefully that we can continue to grow. Hopefully, you know, the dream of Abstract becoming the consumer chain, we position ourselves well for when people come here, that we are the sources of knowledge, we are the sources of entertainment, we are the, you know, the pillar stones for when people come. So that's what I'm looking forward to. That's what I'm going to be working on.
Dude, love it. Thank you for the insight. I think just trying. I think just trying in a variety of ways until you figure out your thing. But I also think this too. If you find your thing and it works really well, don't let that just become you because you think it's accessible. You can never stop trying. I think you always should be still creating. And if you get to that point where like, oh, I'm making a lot of money, people care about me, I'm getting all the impressions because I do that one thing, don't let that become your brand. I think that's a mistake. All right, man. Last question. Ask every guest. You just went through the Mikey G podcast experience compared to other things you've done in Web3 or podcasts in general. You do this stuff all the time. How do you think today went?
I think today went good. I mean, I've only been interviewed once so far by Marcello, and it was a little different than this, right? It was more of an abstract related conversation, more of like that journey conversation, and not like full life. So I think this was fun. This was interesting. Kind of like you said, like it's meant to be a deeper dive. So I enjoyed it a lot. I think we hit some cool points that people can maybe grab from, look and reflect on. They're like, oh yeah, I kind of relate to this, or oh, this is some information that's useful. That's more than just blockchain talk, right? So I think it was fun. It was cool. Thanks, man.
Yeah, and that is what I'm going for. So if you felt that, I've done my job here. And my closing comments are, what struck me, which was really cool, is you are not afraid to try. And I think that's one of your strengths. And I think whether it was just in that founder conversation that you had earlier, or you're starting to recognize that, don't lose that, dude. I think that is actually going to help you really a lot over these next 6 months too, is because if you embrace this master of none mentality and just don't be afraid to fail, it's going to be huge. The other thing that is cool about these conversations is with you not saying things, I still get a sense of you as a self. And the one thing I did get from you is you really do care. And you are a genuine human being. And you are trying hard. And you are trying to do the right thing. Especially at the end where you're like, I can see this internal struggle, which I have to deeply relate to this, is like, do I take a brand deal? Do I put my name on a gambling thing. I don't know, like that, like gambling can be bad for people. And there's just a struggle there. So the fact that you're having that struggle is such a massive, like huge signal of goodness that people need to understand. And these are the types of things that I think you want to hear the people and the content creators that you're following say. And I don't think many people say it in the space. I think, unfortunately, like you said, we all chase the money. And I think the only way that we can get to the right people and make the right decisions is exactly what we just did, raw conversation. And now I understand you as a human being. And like I said, man, in the beginning, well, one, you gave me over 2 hours of your time. That's incredibly valuable. Two, I really do look as the beginning of the friendship. You know, what's cool, what we've just built here is we now understand each other, and me, especially you, as a human being, man. And that's what matters at the end of the day. If we can continue to find people like each other to build, to grow with, and do it the right way, I do think we can change that saying that the nice guy finishes last. I think if you find enough right builders, creators, even in a space like this with integrity, thinking the right way, we can dominate and we can make beautiful things happen and give back and grow wealth for communities the right way and impact lives. And you're one of those people. So I really appreciate you giving the time. I appreciate the beginning of a relationship, and just thank you so much, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Mikey. Those are awesome words. Yeah, I'm glad I came on. Glad we got to know each other a little bit more. Well, more so me than you. But yeah, it was a blast. I'm looking forward to building. And the nice thing about the Nice Guys Finish Last is I'm not looking to finish, right? Like the journey is the fun part. So I'm not super worried about hitting a destination before someone else. So I think we'll be fine. It's gonna be a fun ride.
Yeah. And we listen, this is how we're gonna close it out. We've got over 300 people watching right now. If you don't give Eli and I a follow, knowing that like these are the types of people you want to surround yourself with in the space, I'm going to be very upset. It blows my mind the amount of people that are like, dude, love your content. You're awesome.
Yeah.
They can't even click a follow button, bro. Yeah. Like, how difficult is this?
Well, some of that I think comes down to like cold to warm to hot marketing, right? It's like that's why YouTubers keep saying click the bell event, because even massive YouTubers, I don't even follow Marquise Brownlee, like MKBHD.
Right.
I forget to even follow him, but I watch his content all the time.
So,
yeah, but like sometimes it just comes down to like repetitive, like just marketing. Like you're cold to warm to hot, and eventually they'll hit it. But yeah, I don't take it super personal, because like, you know, if they see my content, they'll see my content, and eventually they'll like it so much where they want to follow it to see more.
100%. And it's just how human brains work. Like it's cringe to me to even like ask for this, but it's like, dude,
it's part of the job.
There's a reason why everybody does it. Yeah. And so we have to do it. So please give us all a follow. Dude, Eli is going to be crushing it. We're going to continue to make content. We got to figure out how to make some more content together. I think we have opportunities there as well. And we appreciate you all, people. Thank you so much for tuning in, watching the show. We love you all. Mikey G and Eli are out.